Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning administrator's hearing for July 1, 2009. My name is Edith Fuentes, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have one case today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panel located directly behind me. Let me just quickly go through our hearing procedure. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if four required findings are present. 1. That the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2. That there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3. That the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the zoning administrator can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read the description of the application or the request, and then read reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief presentation or overview of the case and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and any interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. I would like to emphasize that the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from our Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located on the same floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of these speaker forms, which have been provided by the front door and submitted to our assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the zoning administrator's hearing are recorded on tape as part of public record. And just a quick note, this case also has a conditional use permit application that was heard back in March 18, 2009, And the variance is because of the existing non-conforming conditions and situations on site. So that's why we're going through the variance process. And I apologize, we were not able to get all those variance items early on, so you could have had the hearing at the same time, but it happens. Thank you for your patience. This case is variance 2009-017. Location is 475 West Colorado Street. Applicant is Convenience Retailers, LLC. Property owner is the same. This is an application for standards variance to add sales of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption at an existing non-conforming gas station located at 175 West Colorado Street in the SFMU Commercial Residential Mixed-Use Zone, described as portions of lots 19 through 21, Block M, Glendale Valley View Tract. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments. Okay, police department, they have concern about people drinking on site. So you may have to address that in your presentation or whatever you can do on site to avoid drinking on the premise. Code Enforcement, Neighborhood Services. Okay, so basically their main concern was the expired conditional use permit, and that's the reason we're going through all this process. I have no other communications or concerns. And let's ask the case planner to do a quick presentation. Milka.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fuentes. As previously indicated, there is a current CUP on file.
And this is Milka Toledo, the case planner.
Yes, thank you. The property is located on the northeast corner of Pacific and Colorado Street. The site includes a 1,139 square foot food store, which is a mini market, and a 1,759 square foot fuel service canopy, and a 1,004 square foot express car wash, which is currently not operating. However, based on my conversation with the applicant, that may change in the future. They may start operating it again since there's a new owner on board. However, I will have the applicant address that in his presentation. Just to go briefly over the analysis, again, as and you mentioned earlier, there is a current CUP on file, and it's pending approval due to the fact that because there is a non-conforming condition that currently exists on the site. The situation or the legal non-conforming items are listed in Chapter 30.34020 of the Glendale Municipal Code. I've bullet pointed some of these items specifically. There are 4 that it appears that these are specifically related to the non-conforming issues, and that would be that all gasoline pumps or pump aisles and equipment shall be situated not less than 15 feet from any public right-of-way. Canopies over pump island shall not be situated less than 5 feet from any property line. Obviously, based on the current site conditions, that is a non-conforming situation because due to the time this property was built, these code items were not in place at the time. The next item was that there shall not be more than 2 vehicular access ways to any one street for each development on the site. No driveway access may be located nearer than 5 feet to the beginning of a curve or a street corner or nearer than 5 feet from an interior property line. And lastly, that a planting strip a minimum of 5 feet wide or a landscape berm minimum of 4 feet wide and 2 feet high shall be established and continuously maintained and landscaped along any property line abutting a street except at driveways. So again, as a result of these nonconforming issues, the establishment cannot introduce the sales of alcoholic beverages because, again, their right or their nonconforming right to sell alcoholic beverages expired upon the expiration of the conditional use permit, which is back in December 31st of 2004. I will have the applicant briefly go over why the lapse of time. My understanding is that there was a previous property owner. We sent the reminder that the current conditional use permit was going to expire. However, again, because there was a new property owner, we didn't send it to the new property owner, excuse me.
The old one.
We sent it to the old one, which obviously no longer owned the property at the time. However, I'll have the applicant address that to give a clear understanding of what occurred. So going back to the analysis, again, we have the nonconforming situation. The current CUP that's pending needs to have a decision rendered on or before July 6th of this year, so we have a few days, and that's due to in accordance with the Permit Streamlining Act. The variance is justified on the basis that the sale of beer and wine has existed since 1994, with no history of adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. Having the applicant redesign the site as a result of selling beer and wine is unpractical and would result in unnecessary hardship. And the establishment has a history of operating successfully for several years without having any incidents related to the sale of alcoholic beverages. The applicant intends to continue operating properly with trained staff. And lastly, the recommendation that staff believes that the findings can be made in a positive manner, and therefore staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve the variance, again, on or before July 6th of this year, based on the above analysis.
I didn't realize I'm the one with time pressure here. Okay. And a quick question, the landscaping that they have here. I forgot to look at that one. So do you know if they're properly maintained or if they are...
Based on my site plan that I conducted, it appeared that it was properly maintained. If that has changed, I don't know.
Okay. Just looking at... Couldn't find some... There you go. Photos.
Oh, actually, I pinned more up
Yeah.
on the panel behind.
They look okay. So.
And again, the sale of alcoholic beverages takes place inside the existing mini market, again, for off-site consumption, not on-site consumption.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, to present the case, Bruce Evans.
Good morning, Bruce Evans, Solomon, Saltzman, and Jameson, 426 Culver Boulevard in Playa del Rey. I do want to thank Ms. Toledo for her help in getting us here today. She's been very gracious with her time and very professional, as have all of the staff at the city. Started working originally with Mr. Baxter, and he was also great. So I thought I might offer some explanation to follow up on Ms. Toledo's comment of how we got here today. She's exactly right that the notice to renew did not get to the property owner at the time, which was ConocoPhillips. Because of changes in the gas station industry, the site in early 2000 was owned by Tosco, owned and operated by Tosco. Tosco split up. Some Circle K's went to a company called Circle K Stores, Inc., and some went to ConocoPhillips. And so when the notice of renew was sent out, it did not get to ConocoPhillips. In the interim, between the CUP application and this variance application, what was a 2-year process where ConocoPhillips was selling all of its 800 or so gas stations, There is now a new owner, and they're with me today. It's Pacific Convenience and Fuels. Specifically, they own the site under an entity called Convenience Retailers, LLC. When we were here for the last CUP hearing, the police department had no concerns. All comments were favorable about the operation of the site. There was no opposition. I'm not aware of any recent problems. We just got the staff report. I know it references an incident of drinking on site. We're not aware of what that is, but we will redouble our efforts. I am aware that there is an alley between the car wash and the apartments on the east. We were told by Mr. Baxter that sometimes homeless people will seek shelter in that alley, and Pacific Convenience and Fuels is working with the apartment owner to trim back those trees and to make that less attractive. But permits will have to be pulled to do that because the trees run over a gas line, apparently. So that may be the source of it, but we're not aware of any drinking on site. I do have a photo that I can provide you. It was with the CUP application. I don't think it came with the variance, but it shows that there are 9 different security cameras on site where the manager or employees can monitor 9 different views of the interior and exterior of the premises.
Thank you.
And so the site has all of the latest technology to help them operate it in the best way that they can. I think the reason that there were no adverse issues or concerns mentioned at the CUP hearing was because of the way ConocoPhillips had operated the site for those years. They were my client for a number of years. Unfortunately, they're not anymore because they've sold. But all of those policies that they had in place with respect to training for the sale of alcoholic beverages, those policies are still in place. Steve Sue, who is here today, was a district manager with Conoco. He is now a district manager for the new owner. ConocoPhillips was one of the few retailers that had a secret shopper program where they send an independent company in with persons who were of age but actually looked young, and they would try to buy alcohol or tobacco. And so they had self-compliance checks in this way. If a person did not check ID or made a sale without doing so, they were given one chance, they were retrained. If it happened a second time, they were terminated. That policy is still in place today with the new owner. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but in light of the staff support for the project and the fact that there's no opposition, I'll keep it brief.
Okay. And we all know there was a conditional use permit that was previously granted, which expired in December 2004. And I'm sure that CUP has a list of conditions. Is there anything, have you seen the previous conditions or?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is there anything there that you're not able to meet or that has changed or no longer valid?
All of the conditions were fine that relate to the operation of the premises. There really weren't a lot of conditions in terms of hours restrictions or any concerns like that. There was a specific plan in place when the site was approved in 94 and 99 regarding landscaping. Those measures were implemented and still followed.
That's the one item that I also saw. That's why I was asking about landscaping. So
Yes.
and how long has this been a gas or a service station?
Well, since Patrick, you may have some insight on this. Yeah,
60s?
Mid-60s.
Wow.
The beer and the site was remodeled a couple of different times in the 80s, and then most recently in 94, as I recall. That's when the mini market was remodeled and the sale of beer and wine was established in 94. Since that time, there have been no substantial changes.
The reason I brought that up is from 60s. That's like 40 years ago. So I understand how the non-conforming conditions and situations are existing on this site. So, okay. And it almost seemed like every time remodeling or addition happened, nobody really attempted to make all those non-conforming situations go away or be corrected. So, number of employees, how many employees do you have?
6 employees.
the one who's going to have to answer. So otherwise, you're going to have to.
Yeah. For the
Okay.
record,
Submit.
Steve Sue, district manager,
Okay.
informs me there are 6
Would
employees.
he rather answer all the questions that I have pertaining to the business, or would you?
That's why I brought him, in case you have operational questions.
Thank you very much. Then, okay, just give me your name and address.
Stephen Sue, 1009 Ridgeside Drive, Monterey Park, California.
Okay, Mr. Steven Su. Number of employees on
Number
site?
currently at that site there are 6.
Do they? What's your hours of operation? Are you open?
That's a 24-hour site.
24-hour.
Correct, yes.
So you have like a 8-hour.
We have 3 8-hour shifts.
So I can assume you have 2 or 3 employees every 8 hours rotating?
On an average, 2. Occasionally there is 1, depending upon the shift. Third shift, there's really not too much need for 2 employees, so there's on an average of 1. But during the peak hours, they have 2 to 3.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're also 7 days a week?
Correct, yes.
Do you have, beside the mini mart and the service station, do you have any, and the car wash that's not in operation right now, do you have any other services that you provide on site?
Basic convenience store products, sandwiches, hot dogs.
Okay.
Nothing other than the car
And then
wash,
just-
fuel, and convenience items.
And then just the gasoline
Correct.
dispensing. Okay. So tell me a little bit about your car wash.
The car wash had been taken out of service basically, it's probably about 7 years ago because certain sites had switched over to a self-service car wash where it was basically a car would punch in a code and go through a tunnel and the machine would go around it. Prior to that, it was a full-service car wash, so we had employees there that actually put the car through the tunnel and dried the cars and parked it back and gave them back to the customers. But the trend was at that time to go to self-service. So at that time, they decided not to reopen that site with that particular car wash. They've been looking into a different type of car wash for that particular area, and I believe they're starting to narrow it down now.
Okay. So bottom line is you still don't know what's going to happen
At
with
this
the car
time,
wash.
correct, yes. Well, I mean, we would like to reopen it, but it's a matter of we're actually trying to get brand new car washes for our existing car washes that are in service as well.
Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it, but if car wash uses are allowed in the SFMU nowadays.
I believe they have a variance on file for that because it wasn't allowed at the time either.
Previously, it wasn't.
Right, and they have a variance on file, and they also have an environmental that was prepared, an initial study for the variance for the car wash specifically.
We may have to look a little bit into that because if the use was abandoned for the last 7 years, it may not be a valid car wash variance anymore. So I'm letting you know what you may run into. So
we would have
you're
to do more
aware.
environmental studies as far as I know we would be implementing all new equipment, clarifiers for reclamation of the water. That would be a definite item that would be installed at this site.
Yeah. Okay. Just letting you know. Okay. Okay, so let me see. I guess that's all I have. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition to this application? Closing comments. You have 5 minutes.
Just a clarification on the car wash, because I spoke to ConocoPhillips about this. My understanding is a little bit different than Mr. Sue's. It's my understanding that the car wash that's there now is a self-service car wash. It is the type that you drive through, the driver puts in the code. That use has been discontinued for about 12 months, is my understanding, because of there were upgrade issues. Conoco decided...
Say 11 months and 29 days.
Yes. Yeah. So Conoco had decided when upgrades were required not to do them, basically. I've looked into this a bit for the new owner, and the existing structure would be maintained. It would not be changed so as to trigger aesthetic zoning issues. But the internal guts would be changed out, and they've spoken to vendors about that. I understand they actually have a vendor selected. Of course, they would have to come back to the city for those environmental issues. But the variance that is on file was related to the parking, because the site did not have enough parking for the car wash. But the car wash was otherwise permitted at the time the variance was obtained. So
That's why I'm bringing this up, because we have rezoned that area, and I'm not sure. So
understood.
you may want to keep working with your case planner then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. And with that, I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and we'll let you know. I'm closing the public hearing at 10:03 a.m. Thank you.